Good afternoon, everyone. Ram Raghavan here. I'm the founder of Riddlebox, and we are basically, or used to be a strategy consultancy. Now we've got all those consultancy knowledge embedded as tools, and we are offering it to businesses to help understand the challenges that they face from various aspects, be it strategy, employees, or customers, or operations, or whatever. And I have started this series, and this is the first of the series where we are going to be looking at various things that business leaders can learn from, my experience and my expertise having worked and helped some big businesses and small businesses. So every Wednesday, from 12:30 to 1 is when I want to actually share my knowledge. I know you guys are all busy and there is no dearth of knowledge at this point in time. There are so many audios and videos and podcasts and knowledge available. So what I want to do is I want to be very precise, focus on the here and now, what we did, what we learned, and how can you apply. So that's going to be my laser sharp focused formula to move things forward. So today we're going to be talking about purpose. And why purpose and what is all about, I'll delve into it uh, now. Okay. So what we're going to do is basically I'm going to set the scene, understanding what it is and what where we are coming from, and we're going to look at what is the point in having a purpose for a company. I'm going to share some of the purpose statements that I have helped create for some hospitality clients, some FTSE 100 financial institutions, and so on and so forth. And then I'll just walk through how and what we did to help them internalize it. And then what can you do as a result of all this knowledge? So I'm going to start by setting the scene. And people who know me know that I am known for creating acronyms because we remember things if it is an acronym. We can always expand on it. So the first acronym that we're going to be dealing with today is DEAL. Okay. What is DEAL? See, from my experience of working with businesses for the past 35 odd years, my head eye is working well, so it still is black. Uh, what I've learned is businesses, irrespective of the sector, have three core areas that they focus on. One is they have to have a strategy. This is basically a plan or a tactic or whatever you want to call it. But then the strategy will work only when you have employees who can implement it. Now, having a great strategy is fantastic. Having employees who will take it forward is also brilliant. But if you don't have customers who buy your product or service, there's no business at all. So when we look at it, the areas that successful companies focus are these three areas. And they focus on these where you see the intersection. That is where that's the point of focus. Where customers intersect with employees, we call them as the delivery. This is where the actual delivery of the product or service happens. That's where the touch points happen. The emotional upheavals or addressing of customers, buyer resonance or post-purchase resonance, everything takes place there. Now, that is the D. And then the second is E, which is the engagement, where it is the intersection between employees and strategy. If employees don't understand the strategy or don't believe in it, they are not going to be engaged. If they are not engaged, they are not going to deliver. Now, the third bit is the alignment. The alignment comes from the intersection of the customers and the strategy piece. Here, what we see is how refined or tuned is your strategy to understand what your customers want, what they don't want at this point in time, but would need in the near future. Alignment is all about understanding that and then taking the relevant action to implement that. And the fourth bit, which is where the intersection is, that is the core and the essence of where all this happens, which is where leadership resides. Now, when I analyzed all the data that I have collected and worked with companies, I realized that these are the areas that they focus on. And funnily, it looks like a propeller. And so, I mean, for the purpose, because I like to simplify things, this is the propeller for growth, which I have seen works in hospitality, which I've seen works in call centers, which I've seen works in telco and financial services. So this is the area that we are going to be talking about. And today, specifically, I'm going to be talking about this area of leadership. So deal is basically delivery, engagement, alignment, and leadership. So that is where your focus is going to be. And the series of conversations that I'm going to be having will be touching each of these topics on a weekly basis. Now, how do the leaders lead from deal? So it's just a flip. So what I have seen is all the leaders from hospitality, more specifically, have a very clear purpose and they know why they are there, what they are trying to do as a result of that. And when I looked at all the other characteristics that these purpose driven leaders have, they are focused on growth. That is one of the main things that they don't let their eyes off growth. But what they do is they have an amazing interaction and reliance on understanding the customer challenges, which goes back to the alignment piece that we talked about. They listen to what customers want, they seek feedback, and most of them actually involve customers in understanding how their service can be refined. And we know in hospitality, seeking feedback, TripAdvisor or your Expedia ratings or your Booking.com ratings, all these things matter. They are they listen to that and they go over and above that. They seek feedback personally from customers about new products or services that they are planning to introduce and then bake that into their offerings. So they are always one or two steps ahead of all the also runs. Just for your information, in the hospitality sector, people who actually focus on customers and understand that and create greater experience have experienced an 18% increase in their revenue compared to the ones who just go and do business as usual. But that's the power of focusing and aligning customers and getting their customer needs and wants heard and then baking it into your strategy and developing a product and service to address that. They also are immensely focused on nurturing talent. Now, we all have heard the term employees are our asset. And when I hear that, I laugh now. Again, and funnily, my thesis started with the thing employees are our asset. And if that were true, we should be focusing on nurturing them rather than depreciating them. And that's what's happening. In the quest for profits, in the quest for getting, hitting their numbers, people are the first ones to go. Training is the first thing to get cut. But leaders in hospitality specifically, I've seen when things are not working, they focus and they rely on their people. They train them, they empower them. And in fact, I have got a few hospitality clients where when we seek feedback from their employees, they say, oh, we are trained. In fact, we are overtrained. We are sick and tired of training. That is the level of training that they provide and they empower their employees because they want employees to become well-rounded individuals to take on various roles. So they are always considerate of what they want. Now, that alone is not going to help them. They also focus on effective execution. Now, when it comes to process excellence, hospitality takes a different level of efficiency and effectiveness. They've got consultants who come in and tell you where to start and how to start cleaning from which point of the room and what to do. So they are absolutely focused on getting that done. Now, in addition to that, all these leaders are bold. They listen to the customers, and even if it is something which is not currently required, they take the decision to move things forward and take that calculated risk. Why? Because they all connected to the purpose and where they want the organization and the team to go. Now, again, I tried to create an acronym for this, which is PAAC, but it didn't sound very attractive. So I'll leave you at that. It's about prioritizing growth, acting boldly, customer centric approach, attracting and nurturing talent, and execution with rigor. All this happens only when the leadership can actually mobilize the employees. And when we look at how to mobilize employees, we need to understand why does someone come in to work for you? Because hospitality as an industry is very demanding. You have to have the passion to serve. And the pay is not as brilliant as other sectors. It's in par with a lot of service sectors, but more than that, the long hours, the the relentless requests, the demands of customers makes it a much more challenging job. So for people to actually come on board, they've got the passion, but to get them to do that, go that extra mile, to be consistently good, to create memorable customer experiences, something has to bind them emotionally, and that's where purpose comes in. Now, a lot of organizations have got purpose, including hospitality, or everyone has got a purpose. But when you go and ask them, what is the purpose of your organization? A lot of them can't say that. And this is basically, I'm talking of one level below the C-suite, and it gets diluted as you go down. People don't know what the purpose is. In fact, we used to do something very, of course, with the help and with the consent of the chief exec, we used to walk into the hotels and randomly ask people, what is your purpose, and record it. And we have had hilarious responses because people didn't know, which is literally miles apart from what the organization had promoted as purpose. So, what is purpose and why that is important? That is the first question. Now, we talk about purpose, vision, mission, everything in the same space. Oh, we've got a purpose. People confuse vision with mission and mission with purpose. It is a bit frustrating. And we have all heard about Simon Sinek, and he talks about the why, how, and what. So I'm just going to be using that to explain purpose. Purpose is the why. Why do we get up to come and do the work that we do, despite it being challenging and demanding? Why? That is the purpose. Vision is how are we going to actually do what we are doing? And mission is what are we going to do as a result? So that's how I see purpose. Purpose is at the core. So if you look at purpose, this is an emotional driver, which then impacts how we think, which is your vision, and which then impacts how we do or behave, which is your mission. So purpose is the emotional connection that you need to have. And all the organizations that I've worked with that started with a purpose statement and brought the employees on board have seen their performance go through the roof. One particular client, their engagement scores went from the bottom 10% to the top 10% in 2 years. Their attrition levels went down by 12 to 15%. In another case, the customer's experience grew significantly when employees became engaged because employees realized the impact of what they are doing and they started doing it much more effectively. So purpose is essential for it's the first step to connect success. Now, I came across this book, so I just thought I'll share this. This is a book written by Nikos. He talks about purpose, and he talks about purpose from four different perspectives. So if you have, and it's a light read, so if you have some time, and it's available as an ebook also, please, please go through this because it's very interesting way. And he's compared the different types of purpose to the likes of Microsoft and Asta or Walmart in this case, and shown how it works. Now, these are some of the examples of purpose statements. So to create that purpose, to have a purpose, the first thing to do is you need to have a purpose statement. So we have a structured way of creating the purpose statements. Different organizations go about doing it differently. So we help companies create those purpose statements. And these are some of the statements that are there. If you look at it, nothing is lofty but for the last one. And that's the client we would have loved to work for, but we didn't get an opportunity. That is Google. So, so that is but if you look at the first one, it's about bringing passion and pride to inspire and create excellent experiences. It's something very earthy. It's got some kind of an emotional connect. The second one was basically for a publishing house. It's to captivate everyone with great storytelling from passionate people who I can't see the thing. Okay. So who think big. So I'll probably use the third one, which is very close to my heart because they did a fantastic job with the purpose, which is we gain as much as we can from our customers and they still walk away extremely happy. It is very, very commercial, looks like a commercial statement, but they actually leverage this to get the maximum value out of their employees, out of their customers. And the fourth one is basically a clever play on purpose, which became cyclical. I'm not going to read this, but you can see that it starts with two and ends with two. So it becomes a circular thing. So they actually created it in such a way that people really, it became repetitive. And what companies did was take this, once they had the purpose statement, the urge is to then go and say, okay, this is our purpose statement. We are launching a purpose statement, blah, 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 and then go that. People have done that with very, very limited success. But when I see where purpose has got internalized and it's really become part of the company's DNA, again, they have done it in a very clinical way. There's the second acronym for you, CPD. What is CPD? First thing is purpose has got to be tied in and linked to the culture. So most of these organizations that I work with have got various psychometric tests, like they use the insights, which is colors, the red, blue, green, and orange, or some use disc, and so on and so forth. So they know that every manager knows the type of personalities they have within the team. So they try to understand that, okay, they got the realization that it's a mix of people, and culture is nothing but a combined behavior of the leadership and the teams below them, which then expands and then becomes the culture. It's generally the way we do, the way we behave. So that is what actually leaders started focusing on. They said, okay, we've got people of different behaviors, different needs, different requirements. We need to understand how to embed this. So understanding how do you actually make it personal and relevant was the first goal that any leader who was working in hospitality was focusing on. So what we did was we created a very, very simple questionnaire to because some people did not have the sophisticated access to psychometrics. So we said, okay, answer two questions. Are you a calculator? Do you take risks or you don't take risks? When say take risks, do you take calculated risks? And some. Take no risks is basically business as usual, why rock the boat? So that's one question. And the second question we asked was, are you very process oriented or very people oriented? That's the second question. And then we put a third question later on. Are you very emotionally driven or very analytical, or you basically run the business through emotions or feelings, analytical or feeling? So that is what we did. And we just came up with something which is simple, and I'll talk about that. So once you understand how and what your people are behaving and what is it that they are looking for, you can then use that and create a plan to understand where and how we can incorporate the purpose into the grand scheme of things. Once you do that, you have a big picture, you know what to do, then you go and deploy. You don't go and say, do a grand launch, throw a party, and then say, this is what we did. That is not how it works. Because people who have tried that have not managed to get the impact that they should have actually got. Now, going back to the psychometrics that I said, so we actually created it as a simple one. So if you are a risk taker and you're very result oriented and process focused and all that, we call them as the hero. They want to win. So that is what it is. So you have people who have that. Then the second bit is you're a calculated risk taker or low risk taker, but want to believe in systems and processes and all that stuff. So we call them as the engineers. They analyze things to death. Then you have the people side of things who want people to be part of the whole process. And the fourth one is the discoverer. So we said, if you just answer whether people are risk takers or not risk takers, people to process, you could place them in one of those. So that's a simple question you can, and this became a very funny way or a engaging way to get everyone in. Oh, what are you? Are you a hero or an engineer or whatever? So you know the type. And then we got them to wear those badges in certain places. And we said, okay, to understand people, you need to get into their another acronym, HEAD, HEAD. So you know what is the mix of a leadership team, what is the mix of your, front desk, reception, kitchen, or whatever. And then you can say, okay, this is how the makeup is. How am I going to embed it? Now, again, as I told you could be a hero who's run by analytics or by heart, which is emotions, passion. So that then allows you to create and craft your messages very, very, very precisely. Now, how did they do it? by creating a plan. And this is the plan. This is what they did. I mean, I'll share this. So they communicated the purpose, they trickled it down, and they said, this is not launch, this is what we have created. And when they created the purpose statement, it was not the leadership team. There were few people from the leadership team, but then they had people from every department representing them. So it was a combined effort to create that purpose statement. Then it was circulated to the entire organization and said, this is what we are doing. What do you think about it? And they started collecting information, and not how does it resonate with you? That was the conversation the manager. So how do you feel when you hear this purpose? Some people said, oh, it's so gross and it's so this one. So what can we do to refine? And they got a lot of anecdotes and how it is actually connecting to them. That is the idea. How do you ensure that the message, the purpose connects with them? Then they said, okay, now we've got all this. Let's put this and then bring people from various types to analyze it and come up with something that is meaningful. Then they planned the activities and they shared all the success, which is these bits are things that you normally do. So they normally broke it down to three things. What are the physical things that we need to do? How do we, and what are the technical things? The way we work, can we change that? And mental thing is how do we behave? Physical is the activities that you do and all that stuff. Technical is your capabilities and skills that you demonstrate. Can you serve better? Can you do this better? So they looked at all this through these lenses. And this is the template. They just took it and then literally got everything filled up. And then they analyzed and they got the information. Once they did that, then they went and deployed it. So people actually, like this particular example, they have actually created a purpose wall where you've got pictures of everyone, and then it says, based on the story that they have said, it tells how are they going to help achieve the purpose. So this was done in this is one way. In another place where we saw people actually on the wall, they put their hand, the impression of the hand on the wall, and then they actually stuck a post-it note and then said, "This is my pledge on how I'm going to live the purpose." So this is one way, and the other extreme is a process way where they actually broke the purpose into statements. They said, "This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing." What does this mean? Captivating everyone. What does everyone mean? Authors, teams, stakeholders. Great storytelling. Again, they broke it down to all this. Passionate people, again, they broke it. So they broke things and then they said, these are the things that we need to be focusing on. These are the areas that we need to be improving. And how can we then build stories around it? So this is another way of doing it. But the best example that I have seen, which has worked phenomenally, is with this particular hotel chain, where they said, okay, this is basically the purpose statement that I talked about. We gain as much as we can from our customers and they walk away extremely happy. What did they do? They actually got the stories and then they said, what does gain mean? So gain meant money, gain meant reputation, gain meant comfort, gain meant peace of mind, gain meant referrals. So they captured what gain means to you as an employee. They didn't ask, how did you feel about the purpose statement? They changed the question. If we have this purpose statement, you read it, what does gain mean to you? And how can you help influence that gain? So they collected the list of things that gain meant. And what does happy mean to you as a employee when you read it? How can you make them happy? So they actually got that. And they did a clever thing by linking what they said to what they can do and said, this is how your job description is going to be if you're going to be part of this purpose. So they said, okay, as a housekeeping staff, you can help gain from our customers by cleaning their room effectively. If you do that, you actually gain the customer's peace of mind. You gain the customer's comfort. The customer feels rested because it's a clean room. You gain the customer's feedback, which is positive. You gain the customer's reputation. And as a result, they're going to give you a positive feedback. And we get positive feedback on TripAdvisor, on an Expedia. That is going to translate into more bookings. So by cleaning the room effectively, you're gaining the customer patronage, which then helps you to get more positive reviews, to get more bookings. So this is what they did with housekeeping. With the night security guard, they said, by doing your job effectively, you gain the confidence from the customer that they are actually staying in a safe place. And that gives them the peace of mind, which makes, which then they reflects in the referrals and the ratings that they give. So every job was actually clearly linked. What they do was linked to the purpose and the impact that it was going to have and how that impacted the bigger picture. So suddenly every employee started seeing how their role started impacting the bigger picture and how that's going to impact profit and profitability and performance. And what they did was they started rolling out layer by layer. And that's another thing that I've seen. Even if for bigger initiatives, you roll it out layer by layer, the change happens slowly, but people below the front line start seeing things at the top. They're not sure what's happening, but by the time the change hits them, they are ready to change because they've seen a lot of change in their managers, and so on and so forth. So that's how purpose was rolled out. So this is how companies have internalized it. So what have you learned from this? If you're actually going to create a statement, create a purpose statement, involve as many people as possible, and connect it emotionally. It is, if you go back and look at the statements, we have got emotions: inspired, walk away happy, gain, you know so many things that are there which invoke the emotions and link it back to some of the benefits that you would get as an organization, as an individual. Connect it back to what the individuals do, and bring the statement to life by explaining what each word means to the teams. How can they actually help achieve that purpose? How do you internalize it? And how it impacts the work they do, how it impacts the work that the organization is achieving or trying to do. And by doing this and sharing this, and that's the important thing. One bit which I forgot to include here is constant communication. This is what we have done. And they actually started giving high fives, something called, it's basically a post-it note. So if someone is living the purpose, doing that, someone who's inspired by that can actually give a high five to their colleague. So you get as many high fives, and then that then translates into some kind of awards or whatever, which is all decided by the team of employees, what the award should be. It could be recognition, it could be, a day off or whatever. But then that is how it started becoming viral. And this particular institution was the one which basically smashed a lot of things. I can't name them for obvious reasons, but the work that we did with them pushed them to a different level. And that is what we have seen. The power of purpose is by connecting and really making employees feel valued, listened, and use that power to then drive the other levers, getting your customers aligned, focusing on your customers, listening to them, tweak your operations, and employees then are ready to take action, take initiative. They are bold. Leaders can be bold, that they can actually empower employees to be bold. So suddenly everything falls in place and things start happening. So I think I have come to the end of the presentation. Any questions?